You had the makings of greatness in you. This is all the right pieces laid bare on the table, ready to become a great. It's just. You're not even mad, you know? I just feel disappointed.
Daddy?
And so today we have Antlers. As always, let's just be fair. We'll start from the top up and go through the positives. So Antlers is directed by Scott Cooper, who, to be fair, actually has a decently prolific filmography. I think the most notable films that he's directed as of late that most people would know about would be Hostiles and Black Mass. Scott Cooper's also done like various film and television, so it's another one of those guys where, again, IMDb if you want to see it, but he's been around the block a few times. In terms of the stars of the show, I guess you could really say it's three main characters if you don't want to count the whole Wendigo thing. So we have Carrie Russell, who, again, another one of those actors that she has a very decent filmography. She's been in many things before, whether it's TV or film. I guess she becomes the surrogate mother to the you gotta have your creepy kid, right? You have son of the Wendigo, but you have this kid, Jeremy Thomas. You know, he's a kid, so he hasn't been acting for the longest time, but apparently he's been around since like 2015, but he's been in a few films here and there, nothing too terribly notable, like you wouldn't really know who he is, so I'll leave him for a minute. And then we have one of the guys I do recognize, Jesse Plemmons, or as you know him from Breaking Bad, as everybody refers to him as Meth Damon, basically. But yeah, he's a very unique breed of actor who I do enjoy. I don't know if he's going to win any Oscars anytime soon, but he's usually good at what he does. Yeah, there's other cast in the film. You wouldn't know any of them, honestly, if you're your average film goer. Even like me, I knew like Jesse Plemons and that was about it. But where to start with this? So for Antlers, I love the setting. I think the trailer's a good trailer. It does a very good job of enticing you as it enticed me. The setting of that like almost Twin Peaks, a little bit of Silent Hill, a little bit of like I never like the Hills Have Eyes settings where it's like over here in the southern mountains and you got some cannibals running amok. Like everybody always Texas Chainsaw and the like always kind of treads on those waters, but what I feel like I like seeing more is, I don't know why, but it's those northern like logging towns or fisher towns. I think it's why Midnight Mass worked so well for me, is that setting of like, we're up here in the northern mountains, most of the setting is just all forest, nature. There's like a very small town that's like just barely modern enough to be put on the map, and then you have like people that are modern people like us, you know, in the 2020s now, and then you have like some modern tech, but it's still just that like there's something off about this place. There's either a mystery or some like grisly, horrible things happening, and you have to kind of like survive out there. It's also very like Alan Wake, which I played on my channel recently. It kind of gives you those vibes, so the aesthetic is there. And while we're talking about positives to this film, the cinematography is great. Like I said, the visual aesthetic of the town is really cool. It's all like mist and fog soaked, kind of like not even dread, but you just have a sense of uneasiness, you know. But the trees, the forests, the things aren't like grayed out, but there's a certain amount of saturation, and the color palettes used in this film are just appealing to me and what I like to see visually on screen. So visually speaking, it works. Again, while we're on the positives and all that, if you saw the trailer, you know very damn well Antlers is a film about the Wendigo. If you don't know what the Wendigo is, a quick Google search will fill you in, but long story short, way back in the day, like this is like Donner Party shit, basically like people trapped in the mountains, either, you know, up in them or inside them or whatever, and they get to a point where they're near starvation and they're so far gone and so desperate they start eating each other or themselves. And the idea is that the first person that did that, like from a mythological standpoint, kind of transcended his human body and became this like clawing, ever hungry, malignant, this spirit basically, and then going forward from that point, anytime somebody else encounters this spirit or were to engage in these acts of cannibalism, they too have the spirit of the Wendigo, and that's where, you know, the fact of the matter is, yeah, cannibalism, they go crazy, period. But then, of course, you take the myth from there, where it's like once you engage in cannibalism, you become this creature, this monster, Antlers, it's really kind of like, it is kind of like Antlers, actually. That's the whole idea of the movie, is that I guess this kid's father is becoming one, and the kid is trying to take care of him, but it fails, and the father gets out, and then boom, chaos ensues, and you have your film. On paper, great concept. And the last positive I have to say in regard to that Wendigo is that in this film, and I think this is because, so I know I'm kind of all over the place, but Guillermo del Toro, if you don't know him visually, he's one of my favorites. He's in my opinion, a great director and also a good producer, but he's responsible for bringing us such gems as Pan's Labyrinth back in the day, Hellboy back in the day, and more recently that actually won him his first Oscar, Shape of Water. So he's a very prolific director and is very good with monster films, creature features, designs, and all that. He's a producer on Antlers, and he was literally part of their marketing, understandably so, because once I saw his name was attached to it, I became more attached to it. And to his credit, you see his influence in the design of the Wendigo. There's a good balance between practical effects and also VFX, or visual effects for the layman. It works very well for the creature design, and whenever there is like blood and gore, it also works pretty well. So you can see his influence in it, as it seeps into the film. Alright, where to begin with Antlers? The biggest issue, and I think most critics are starting to agree with this as well, is that this film struggles very much to find its tone. Going into it, I thought it was just having a slow start. Most of the film is pretty slow. For a film that's supposed to be about a Wendigo, there's maybe 8 to 10 minutes of a Wendigo in it, which is not what I wanted to hear, and if I had heard that before seeing the movie, I would have had second thoughts. It's just, the film can't decide whether it wants to be like a monster film, creature feature, horror movie, or a weird horror drama about a woman who's trying to like recover from an abusive rapist father that she had, and now she's trying to adopt a surrogate son and save him from a similar fate. And these two plot lines, the main two plot lines, are clashing too much, and it does the film a heavy disservice. Going into this, what I expected was there to be like creature feature, 100%. Maybe some good dramatic moments here and there, but overall I was coming to see this poor kid lose his father to the spirit of the Wendigo, to transform and then wreak havoc on the town. Like, first it's subtle, bodies start disappearing, and then as it becomes more and more and more, and the whole town's aware of it, and now this thing's running amok, and you have to, by the end of it, you're chasing him down into the woods and trying to put a stake through its heart or whatever. Like, that's what I thought was going to happen. Instead, there's maybe like there's technically two on-screen, like, you fully see them Wendigo kills. There's one really solid Wendigo kill before the father even actually fully transforms that I was a fan of, and I thought that's where the movie was going to kick it into high gear. And then there's one where it's just like a pretty simple Wendigo kill, but I feel like they really had a series of heavy missteps with this and seriously underutilized the main plot device of this entire film. In addition, the characters and actors, like, you can tell there's some talent there behind everybody, like between Carrie and then Jesse over it, like between Carrie Russell and Jesse Plemmons, you can tell like they're their usual selves when it comes to, Jesse Plemons is almost typically typecast in a certain role at this point, but you can tell there's effort being made. But when you have a script that's decent but not great, and then you have like a story that's just kind of meandering between two sides of almost two different coins here, then you start to kind of lose the impact those actors could have had on the film. And also with the kid, like, I don't want to speak ill of children actors because, they're young and they're, just getting into the fold. This kid played visually creepy very well, kind of just off to the side, just kind of like barely making eye contact, the sullen, sunken face, just the standoffish nature of him. He did all that incredibly, but I will say his line delivery here and there was just a little bit not quite as bad as Old, but it was definitely just kind of like weird, just like, here's my line and I'm gonna say this now, but no, there's still a chance. And just the way that he said things is just, it's hard to put in on paper, but if you watched it, you'd see what I'm talking about. Kid's good, but I think he has potential, but he could have just used some more coaching on his lines, I think. Another kind of nitpick is that it doesn't happen throughout the entirety of the film, but there are some weird editing decisions. There are some scenes that have a couple weird cuts here and there, and as someone who I don't normally notice editing too much, because most people in films of a certain caliber, they make it so it's not very noticeable, but there are some moments where a scene was cut a certain way, or a little edit was cut too soon or something. It was just it could have used maybe another polish, I think, and it's not a big enough issue where it was prevalent throughout the entire film, but it happened frequently enough where I noticed and I wanted to make a point to say something about it. Soundtrack's unremarkable. There's not a central theme or some good musical stains or anything. It's just kind of general ambiance, horror, B-roll, audio, just, again, just fills in the blanks of what otherwise would just be nothing, really. So nothing stood out to me in that regard. Unlike Dune, which was just wow, it was just kind of... It's not a fair film to make a contrast to, but horror films can have better audio, and this one doesn't for its orchestral score. Honestly, it was very disappointing because for an R-rated film, this film this film whiffed a lot of its hits. It really just kind of just held back its punches a lot of the time. There's a couple, maybe 3 scenes of good, solid gore, but that's what I'm coming here for. I'm going to see an R-rated Wendigo horror film where people are going to get ripped apart. That's what the Wendigo does. It eats people and eviscerates them, and it's just, and I didn't 100% get that, and it was very disappointing because that's what I was expecting. And then I was yeah, so where's the violence? Where's the gore? Where's the monster kills? There's 1 or 2, and one of them he still is holding back. So it's just I don't know, man. The assessment, I went to see it with a few friends, and the assessment that I made about it and that they agreed with was that this entire film, this entire hour 45-minute film, or whatever it was, close to there, this film could have been shortened to a 10-minute cold open. And I wish I was joking, but literally, what the main events and the amount of gore that happens in this film could be shortened to a killer 10-minute cold opening to lead into an actual film called Antlers. And that would have been great. But we don't get that instead. And that's just unfortunate. I think the film misses its mark and doesn't quite accomplish what it sets out to do. The biggest issue this film has is that it can't figure out what it wants to be. I came from a monster film that could have a little bit of serious dramatic acting chops in it, but the film keeps on wavering between wanting to start to become a monster Wendigo film, but then being stuck in that purgatory of oh, but here's our main character and we want to bring her B story up front. We want to try to develop her more and give her more reasoning for. You don't need that per se. I'm not saying have a mindless, just kill, rip people apart, nothing makes sense type of horror movie like Halloween Kills. But you can have that balance because people have done that balance. The Thing. The Thing is, I know everybody always has good things to say about it, but it's just first thing to come to mind as a fantastic horror film. The Thing. Great story, great actors doing a bang-up job, some of the greats, very gory, but it's not all about the alien. It's about these humans and cabin fever, isolation, trying to decide who you can trust and how to survive. You care about who's going to make it through. There's more to it. There's layers. But not with this. And yeah, I was conflicted because look, here's the thing. My gut rating for this does not make me happy, only because comparing it to another film that I gave a lower rating to, I'm surprised the other film puts it a cut above it. I'm just gonna say it. I gave Antlers a high 2 out of 5, like a very high, but not enough to even be, I don't consider it a low 3. It's a film that I have no desire to go see again. I was very disappointed. I thought it missed the mark with what it was trying to be versus what it ended up being, and all the pieces were there on the table, but they weren't assembled into the proper machine, you know? The reason that makes me upset is because I gave Malignant a low 3 out of 5, and I know what you're thinking. Oh, but MovieMan, wouldn't basically anything else be better than Malignant? Look, for all the shit I gave Malignant, I will say this one thing. It accomplishes what it set out to do, and although it is not a good film, the third act as a whole act almost entirely redeems it for me because of how bonkers and crazy and entertaining it becomes. And for that reason, I had the only literally, out of all the notes I had for this film, because I always kind of make a series of key talking points before I do these things, the only pros I had for this were the setting and the aesthetic, like visually speaking, the cinematography, the creature design, which is barely utilized in the film, and that's it. So I guess I should have said the setting, the aesthetic, cinematography, and the creature design. That's it. Other than that, there's a laundry list of cons about what this film doesn't do right. And for that reason, I can't give it like a terrible, terrible score, because it wasn't a terrible film, but it was not a good one. I thought it was pretty bad. I thought it was, based on what the trailers were showing me and what the film was trying to become, it didn't get there. It fails in its mission, and it underutilizes what could have been its biggest asset. And it's disappointing because Guillermo was attached to this, and I would have thought that he would have had some 2 cents to put in. Even Shape of Water. Shape of Water is definitely a drama. It is a drama, almost like a drama romance for sure. But the horror elements that are mixed in, that's the mix. That's what it is. You know, Shape of Water is this weird, you know, science fiction like love story between a human and a fish man. And normally you wouldn't be able to sell that, but he sold it because he focused on the dramatic parts of it and trying to humanize this creature. And he had horror elements, but the horror was more about the human element, about the FBI agent or whoever it was that was trying to stop this and figure it out and get the guy to try to contain the fish man. And then there were, like I said, there were horror elements to it, but the film never lost sight of what it knew what it was. And most of Guillermo's films know what they are, but I feel like Antlers is a horror film with an identity crisis, and it suffers heavily because of it. So that's all I have to say about that. I would say do not go waste your time seeing Antlers. I mean, if you're really that curious, you could always, you know, if it's a date night and you know before the end of the movie, you two are going to be rolling around on the couch together, then maybe put Antlers on or something like that, or I don't know. Like, it's not a film that I would say, oh, you gotta watch it. It's not like, you know, most other films it's not like a film where I gotta say, oh, you gotta watch this as an experience. It's one of the best horror films of the year. No, it's not. It wasn't a waste of my time, because I don't think film in general is a waste of my time per se. But I would say don't see it in theaters, and I'm not gonna buy it when it comes out. I mean, if you're ever going to watch it, either wait to stream it or rent it maybe. But even then, like, wait till it goes for sale for like $5 at Walmart in one of those big DVD bins or whatever, you know. So that's all I have to say about Antlers. A very disappointing horror film, but I wanted to get one more out there. Hopefully I got this uploaded by the end of Halloween. If not, this will be November 1st, but I'm hoping it's up there by Halloween. So I'm sorry that I couldn't review more spooky films. Your boy's got a big packed schedule, but I got a few of them out there. So yeah. As always, thank you guys and gals so much for watching. And yeah, that's about it. I was gonna say Resident Evil, but that's not gonna be until next month, so past the Halloween vibe. They could have gotten some good marketing there, but anyway. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next movie review that I do. Goodbye, travelers.